Welcome to the Land Your Bets show. I'm your host, Nate Weitzer, flying solo here for opening looks, week 11 NFL action. I'm going to do this solo here because they're really my thoughts, getting them down on paper, trying to work through the slate with you guys, do the homework early so that when the props do come out on Thursday and Friday, we can get some opening line value there. We're going to talk through some spreads and totals as well on this, look at 5 games in particular, if you do want to get some early action down before you think it moves, but really just stuff to monitor all week. And then we'll, of course, come back with the closing looks. So let's get right into it here with Atlanta, the best prize pick of the week, in my opinion, -3.5 at home against Carolina. I think they can easily win by a touchdown plus here. Carolina just awful on the road for starters. Atlanta back home after pushing really the best 2 teams in the AFC, at least by record, the Colts and the Patriots, pushing them to the brink in the last 2 here. It's a revenge spot after getting blown out 30-0 in Carolina. Carolina, just right back to earth. And it really was just an easy defensive scheme for the Saints. It's just like, we're going to take away Rico Dowdle. We're going to play man-to-man. What do you have, Bryce Young? And he does not have anything. He's not good. He's very not good against the blitz. 29th in completion rate, 31st when pressured. Atlanta's now second in blitz rate, and they did it very creatively, getting to Daniel Jones frequently, getting to Drake May a little bit too in that previous matchup. We saw what they did to Josh Allen a few weeks ago. That was actually what their last home game, right? So now they're back. They're finally back at the Dome here. They have a defense that is very good against the pass, has been vulnerable against the run, but there's definitely some home road splits there. And if they just copycat the Saints game plan, should be able to slow down Rico Dowdle. I mean, their pass defense at home has been fantastic, though. 21 sacks, 3 touchdowns, 5 interceptions at home against superior competition than Bryce Young. So if it's a positive game script, really negative, I don't care. I think Bijan's going off in this game. I think while fantasy managers are panicking about his touchdown role, let's just take the raw yardage. This man is going to get plenty of touches. He still had 85% of the snaps and ran 90% of the routes while Tyler Algier was poaching all his touchdowns in Germany there. Now he's back home against, Carolina is still top 5 in EPA run defense, but they just gave up 115 scrimmage yards to the ghost of Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara had 2 yards the previous week against the Ram and then just was not heard from basically at all this season. So to give up that kind of effort to him and then you get maybe the most explosive back in the league now at home, where prior to his dud against Miami, which just left everyone scratching their heads as to how to predict this stuff. And now it looks a little better because Miami also just shut down James Cook pretty much. They're a hot, cold team. But anyway, prior to that, Bijan had 209 scrimmage yards per game against Washington and Buffalo, including a career high against Buffalo. In week 18 last year, he rolled the Panthers for 173 scrimmage yards. So we're probably going to get a number about 115 if you combine these two. Maybe you just want to take the rush, but Michael Penix is feeding him a ton of targets, and that route rate is really good. But yeah, I would lean towards the rushing if we're just isolating one, if we see more value on just the rushing, because he's had these duds, including one against Miami, that has led to some deflated value in terms of rush and the perception that Algier is going to come in there and take some of his rushing yards. Sure. But Bijan will still be able to break some plays here against Carolina. Game 2, the luckiest team in the NFL, the NFC at least. I guess the Denver Broncos have that credit in the AFC. But yeah, the Bears, everybody wants to fade them. That's why Vikes are now giving a field goal at home. And I think you can still take it. Don't get fired because Brian Daboll's team couldn't hang on to a lead against this Bears team, up 20-7 late in the 4th, I believe. So yeah, if you do that, you might also get fired like Daboll. But Kevin O'Connell's a very good coach. There's definitely an edge on that side of the ball. KOC versus Dennis Allen in this Bears defense, which is still really hamstrung by secondary injuries. See if they get any of those guys back. But they're a pass funnel right now, and not a good one. So I do think that means JJ McCarthy will continue to get opportunities to push the ball downfield. Not to mention the Vikings don't have much traditional run game going. It's going to be all Aaron Jones going forward. Jordan Mason is completely dusted. So I'm going to see where his numbers are, Aaron Jones, before I get into the passing game stuff. Because, he was at 72% of the snaps Yeah, and a lot 66% of the routes and RBs have torched the Bears in the passing game the last two, including Devin Singletary last week. But wide receivers should also do just that. I think this might be the week to buy the Justin Jefferson explosion. I mean, it's between him and JJ just overall because maybe some of the production goes to Addison, but both those guys had massive unrealized air yards against the Ravens last week. I mean, that part of that is just McCarthy bombing it downfield into double coverage, and I don't think he's going to be that willy-nilly with this Bears team. But they're not as well coached at the back end. They don't have as much good personnel as the Ravens, who are improving rapidly. In fact, they're giving up the most yards per attempt on the road, even more than the Washington Commanders, who just can't stop anything through the air. So the Bears, they can be had, and I mean, McCarthy is now at this point being given the answers to the test by KOC. Like I said, the connection with Jeddah has not been there yet, but the opportunity has. 198 air yards for Justin Jefferson, leading to just 37 yards last week, and he dropped the touchdown. That was on him. I'm sure there's some internal conversations like, just keep feeding me, Rook, and we'll get this thing going. I mean, Jackson Dart had 205 at halftime against this Bears team, and Darius Slayton was dunking on him. So if you got now one of the top 5 receivers in the game going against the depleted Bears unit, I definitely think Jefferson can put up some numbers. Definitely going to be a prime DFS play as well. So the Cardinals open near a pick here with the 49ers, and it got all the way to a pop to a 3. And I think if you can wait on that and grab it again when it potentially gets there again, that's the best way to play this against the spread. But in general, I think that the Cardinals are a live division dog here at home. Surprising that they're getting points. I mean, it's really the 49ers name that is doing the work here in terms of the spread. It's possible they get Ricky Pearsall back, and he was huge in the Week 3 win there. But it was also Kyler Murray in that Week 3 win, and he's been awful against Kyle Shanahan. He had only 159 yards in that game, in an 84 rating, which is pretty much exactly the splits he's had in 7 straight against the 49ers, regardless of what personnel they've had out there. Of course, they did have Fred Warner out there for that game, and they've lost several guys since then. Probably the worst defensive line in football at this point, and Jacoby Brissett, if he gets some time in the pocket, he can carve you up. Cardinals might also get some of those 3 starters back that were missing against Seattle and really led to that disastrous start. But after the disastrous start, Jacoby looked pretty good, and he's probably going to have a good time here in terms of the matchup. Like I said, no pressure, no real running backs of note for the Cardinals. I was thinking about Amari DeMarcado as a passing option, but I mean, with Trey Benson potentially coming back, he could take over this backfield. We don't know if Bam Knight's going to play, Michael Carter, whatever. So it's basically going to be a lot of dropbacks for Jacoby. And it's a good matchup to do just that. 29th in opponent's completion rate and quarterback rating. Also 28th in yards per completion allowed are the San Francisco 49ers since losing Fred Warner. Jacoby, like you see here, I mean, struggled in Seattle, but still put up the numbers. And that was frustrating trying to fade him in terms of I think they're going to get run here. I'm going to take the under. I'm going to take an interception. He has 2 fumble 6s, and then he's in such a crazy trailing script that he actually gets over his prop. Really, I should have just taken the Seahawks to cover there. But point is, now back home. And in home and dome games in the last 4, you see 24.5 completions, 287 yards per game. That includes against the Packers and Colts. Very good teams, very well-coached teams. Not saying the Niners are not. They're extremely well-coached. But I think Brissett is just going to have an advantage here in terms of being able to sit back all day and wait for his receivers to uncover. And on the other side, I mean, we have Brian Robinson making his way into the backfield conversation here for the 49ers. So there's going to be some numbers to exploit here, whether it's McCaffrey under rushing or Brian Robinson rushing over, or McCaffrey over receiving, or possibly the two together, because CMC is basically playing slot receiver at this point. When they don't have success running the ball, and they didn't last week, they just went right to B-Rob, who played 22% of the snaps. In fact, took an entire series away from CMC in the third quarter and had to run the ball up the middle. Arizona is similarly good against the run as the Rams are. They're 9th in EPA are the Rams. Arizona now 11th. They were 4th at one point. They're going to be looking better if they get Mac Wilson back. They shut down McCaffrey on the ground in the last matchup, and he absolutely torched them once again as a receiver. B-Rob, though, 2 weeks ago against the Giants, I mean, he only played 9 snaps. He got 5 carries for 51 yards on those. So clearly Shanahan's seen something good from him as far as a change of pace back, someone to get up the middle and between the tackles. And I think that's how you can potentially have some success against Arizona. If his prop is low enough, like 20 yards or so, I think he's worth a play. But if CMC is up near 70, I think you go under on the rushing, and you probably take over on the receiving once again, because his route rate is still just incredible. It's about 85% in every game this season, and his 26% target share is first among running backs by far. The other NFC West showdown here, we have Rams -2.5. It was, again, this is one that's going to hover around the hook. It looks like now up to -3, but I think you can get a 2.5 if you want to back the Rams here. And that's the way I'd go. I would not take Darnold over Stafford as to where we're going right now. I mean, he's just a veteran who's seen it all. So I think Mike Macdonald's defense might not be able to fluster him the way they have everybody. You look at the coaching matchup last year, Sean McVay, got Jimmy G to go for 334, 27 for 41, 334 yards against the Seahawks defense. And that was with no Kyron Williams, no Puka, obviously no Davante Adams, but Ronnie Rivers and Jordan Whittington were the primary skill players there. So, I mean, that shows you that the coaching, there is an edge here for McVay. Seahawks have elite metrics, but a bit of a beneficial schedule, especially lately. And yeah, I mean, the Rams have played the best of the best pretty much. And I don't know, haven't seen anybody find answers really to continually stop this offense. And it's this man who's the most unstoppable, Puka. We liked Davante Adams last week, liked him a bit more the previous week too. And now I think we buy the dip. If maybe you can get Puka down around 79 yards at open, 78 perhaps, because he's been well under that in the last two. Only played 51% of the snaps last week, but still 36% targets per route run, which is by far the best on the Rams there. He also only had 27 air yards compared to Davante's 128. And while that seems like, wow, Davante's getting a lot more of that good stuff down the field, that's not what Seattle's given up. I mean, their pass rush is so good. They're so good at limiting yards per attempt that they're going to force Stafford to get it out quick and get it to this guy and let Puka do things in terms of yards after the catch. He's going to motion into the slot where the Seahawks are actually vulnerable. Devin Witherspoon's playing on the boundary, as is Reek Woolen, who's coming on. So Adams is going to see those guys a lot more. And Puka's just going to move into the best matchup that McVay can find for him. We already talked about the coaching edge there. So I think he will get his guy opportunities. I mean, he's at 42% of snaps in the slot right now, which is where you want in this kind of matchup. And on the other side, I definitely will be looking to fade Kenneth Walker if we get a rushing prop close to 60, which would be great. I mean, he got over that last week because they had a 77% rush play rate, which is just not what teams have been doing against the Rams by any means. They're usually in trail against the Rams, and that's why 76% of the yards have come by the pass against the Rams in their last three. Also, just the way Kenny is supposed to gain his yards is get to the edge, right? Use that athleticism. That's the criticism of him, is he tries to dance and not necessarily just hit the hole the way Charbonnet does, which is why, even in that positive script for Seattle with so many rush attempts, it was still 40% for both those guys. And Charbonnet actually outgained him on the ground. I think they're going to have more Charbonnet here to try to soften up that Rams defense, which, just to go back to what the Niners did last week, Brian Robinson up the middle, no CMC anymore. That's the situation with this Rams defensive line, which is just so athletic with Jared Verse and Byron Young and company. They will not let Walker, I think, get to the edge and break those big plays. I mean, they're allowing 3.29 yards per game. He had 3.3 yards per carry the last time he faced the Rams. That was about 2 years ago because he was injured in the two matchups last year. But if you look at the backs that they've held down, the Rams, I mean, they held CMC under 60 twice, like I mentioned. Jonathan Taylor held to 76, which, only the Steelers have actually held him down, not letting him get to the edge. I mean, he can do it all, but really Derrick Henry is the only guy to go 100 plus against the Rams this year. In fact, he is the only guy. So, I mean, that's a power back that's between the tackles, and Kenny Walker has not been that. Seahawks are also offensive line is not that. They are good at tackle. They are not good on the interior. So that's going to be a weakness with Sam Darnold as well. Just to go back to the game pick here. Sam Darnold with pressure up the middle, just terrible. That's when he struggles. He's been better this year. He's been better in every respect. And I don't think we're going to see the same old Darnold, the same way Daniel Jones has shown flashes of being the same old Daniel Jones and back. But with Darnold, it's been like on point with the script early on, started 24 for 24 in the last 2 games. And then it kind of started to get a little wonky there with Houston defense, Cardinals defense coming at him. And I think this Rams defense is going to have something for him. Oh, the Carnival's back in town. The Bengals at Pittsburgh, and the total is 50. Bet down a little bit here as people expect a little regression from that Bengals offense, which just exploded against Pitt. Also, the Steelers offense looked dreadful at the Chargers. I don't know if I have a real pick here for the game, either spread or total. But I mean, when the Carnival comes to town, there's player props to target. And I think the biggest thing to look at is what adjustments are the Steelers going to make against Ja'Marr Chase, who had 16 catches, 14 of 16, I think, something like that. Just an absurd line the last time these teams met. T. Higgins got involved as well, but I think that he's going to be even more involved here. And that Bengals defense being probably the worst in the league now, especially that after they traded Logan Wilson, who wasn't even playing anymore. I think that's going to guarantee a little bit of shootout action. Also going to guarantee this man continues to do his thing. If you want to add the receiving to Jaylen Warren, I mean, he gets elite receiving usage as well, but I think he's so far ahead of Kenny Gainwell in terms of getting the rush attempts that it's not even close. And there's this misleading snap count that we saw last week because they're in a trail game script that Gainwell actually outsnapped Warren. But I just don't think that's going to be the case here. I would definitely lean towards Pittsburgh winning the game and teasing them down to money line here. I think Joe Flacco is going to find a way to keep the Bengals offense flowing, though. But I think winning the game, positive script, that means more Jaylen Warren against the league's worst rush defense by yardage. Jaylen still had 16 of the 21 RB opportunities last week. He obviously 16 for 127 on the ground against the Bengals in this last matchup. Also had a 41% route rate in that matchup. And he has 2+ catches every single game with Rodgers. Rodgers loves to get those quick dump offs to him. And you can get some explosives off these dump offs sometimes. He's 5th among running backs in yards per route and 6th in yards per target. So if Warren and company build a lead, like I said, I'm just looking for ways to get ahead of the Steelers game planning against Chase. And this would be the most obvious one is, okay, we're going to go to T. Higgins. So it's a good thing we have maybe the best number 2 in the game. And we already saw him benefiting from the extra attention on Chase. In week 9, Bengals had a bye last week. The Bears were selling out against Chase, who had 54 targets in the first 3 with Flacco. Just absurd volume. Bears were aware of that too. They said, all right, we're going to try to take this guy away. And T goes off for 7, 121, and 2 tutties. And so the Steelers don't really have the personnel to deal with either of these guys one-on-one. It's going to be a lot of Jalen Ramsey coming down in help, and he's playing well at safety. So I think he's going to be the guy jumping in to help with Chase, and that they're going to have a scheme for that. But then they're going to leave Higgins either on Slay or Porter Jr., who continually go down with injuries during these games. Slay, almost every single week, looks like he's going to be done. And then he finds a way to keep going, the veteran. But yeah, he's not playing that well. The Steelers' boundary corners are obviously struggling in terms of their overall passing yardage. And if the Steelers do build the lead, what we saw last time with them at home is the Colts feeding 13 and 12 targets respectively to Pittman and Alec Pierce, both those guys going off. So, I mean, both Chase and Higgins could get over their props here, and Flacco's definitely going to be willing to feed them. I'd also look at Chase Brown receiving just on the same vein. That was one of the early looks here because I think he's going to have to get the ball out quick is Flacco. But we'll have all these looks for you here at the end of the week. We'll have some official looks. We'll probably look at some other games, look at some different sides and totals. Once we have more news, more angles, and more research to bring you on Friday, check out landyourbets.com. That's where we're bringing you all this stuff and getting you our specific plays, the swish projections, everything you need to get ready for NFL Sunday, as well as NBA every single night. That is Josh's specialty, and he has his NFL picks for you as well. But until we see you next, happy betting.